Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health, the Wellness Forum Institute, and Make Americans Free Again. We're just about a week and a half away from the Cancer Summit, March 21st and 22nd. We have a great list of speakers. I won't go through the whole thing here, but we're going to be talking about topics such as ketogenic and press pulse diets for advanced cancer. We're going to talk about water fasting. We're going to have speakers talking about the psychosocial aspect of cancer, how emotional state and psychological state affects survival. You're going to hear from survivors and their stories. You're going to learn how to analyze conventional therapy, minimize side effects from cancer treatment, supplements and alternative treatment, and how to manage your oncologist. So good information if you don't have cancer to share with other people who may. If you are a cancer patient or somebody in your family is, I think this is the best way to get information about outside the box treatment. I've said for a long time, there's a tendency to throw the baby out with the bathwater and then say, either alternative or conventional. The best approach really is the marrying of the two and picking the best of both worlds. And you will learn that some people survive cancer for advanced cancer for a very long time by making super smart decisions, and we'll teach you how to do the same thing. So all in all, I think it's going to be a very hopeful weekend for cancer patients and their families who choose to join us for this summit, and for health professionals who are wanting to learn about alternative strategies so they can help their cancer patients better. So I have a couple great topics to talk to you about today. By the way, if you're interested, email me at pampopper@msn.com, and I'll be happy to send you the flyer that describes the whole program for you. All right, so first item of interest is has to do with the psychosocial aspect of health. And I'll just start by saying, I think one of the ways in which our approach to health has evolved during the last 10 years or so is we invest in and have more focus on psychosocial aspect of health than we did when Wellness Forum began. And this is reflected in the curricula that we put together for the Cancer Summit. A common practice, by the way, of patients who survive advanced cancers is examining emotional and mental states and making changes as needed. So we thought it was important to include it. Now, cancer is not the only disease which is impacted by emotional state. Inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, Crohn's, and ulcerative colitis are also characterized by a very strong psychosocial component. And a recent study illustrates this point. The study included 1,641 patients, 830 with Crohn's and 811 with ulcerative colitis. Questionnaires were administered, and these people were followed over time. And the idea was to determine the relationship between psychological state and flares. Now, the definition of flare in the IBD world is when a patient has been stable for a period of time on medication or off, and the disease starts or symptoms start to come back, or progression of symptoms in spite of medication and that sort of thing. So here were the results for the patients who had flares. Moderate anxiety, 18.8%, severe anxiety, 16.1%, moderate depression, 9.8%, severe depression, 5.7%, sleep disturbances, 46.4%, insufficient exercise, 22.2%. And of course, exercise has a lot to do with psychosocial state. Everything is connected to everything in the world of health. You can't find the thing to fix. You have to fix the totality of it. So anyway, at 24 months of follow-up, 36% of the patients experienced a clinical flare and 13% experienced a hard flare, defined as a clinical flare plus markers like C-reactive protein and calprotectin levels that were markedly higher, and a change in medication or treatment for IBD. The researchers noted that not only was psychological state important, obviously, in whether or not the IBD patient stays stable or gets better, but that cognitive behavioral work with IBD patients was found to result in a better response to medication. So, to be clear, I don't think you think your way out of diseases like cancer or IBD, but it's important to include that component. And diet is super important for IBD patients, as it is with all patients who want to get well. Diet is an important factor. We developed many years ago, over 2 decades ago, a very measured 5-step protocol, dietary protocol that has resulted in large numbers of remissions. And some people have remained in remission for, a couple decades. But over the years, we've noticed that psychological state is often the cause of relapse, and that chronic negative psychological state often prolongs the relapses, even in people who are eating really well. So if you'd like to know more about our IBD program, just send an email to pampopper@msn.com, or about our cancer summit coming up, and I'll be happy to forward information to you. A couple of things to remind you about. We have a free program coming up on March 19th at 8 p.m., and we're going to talk about three major items. One is research tips. I want everybody to be more self-sufficient in figuring things out. How do you look up a study or a health claim on your own? And what do you do when there's two different points of view about something? How do you figure out what's right? We're going to talk about green tea and cancer. Thousands of studies on green tea and cancer, a topic I haven't spoken much about. And then the other thing, because people are so plagued with weight problems, why is it so hard to lose weight? And I'll tell you a statistic that's just astounding to me still, even though I've known it for a long time. The failure rate for obese males trying to reach normal weight is 99.92%, and for female patients, it's 99.85%. Something's clearly wrong with what we're doing to help overweight people, and we're going to discuss that. So that one's free. All you got to do is just let us know that you want to participate. And then remember, if you've never been a member of Wellness Forum before, we will give you a gift certificate equal to the amount of membership dues. And if you're an existing member and you refer a never member, we'll give you that certificate as well. So we're not going to do this for a real long time. So this is the time to jump on that. So information about this, email pampopper@msn.com. All right, now we're going to talk about muscle strength cardiorespiratory fitness, or CRF, and surviving cancer. Super important information. According to a systematic review and meta-analysis that included 42 studies and almost 47,000 patients, cancer patients with high muscle strength, if they were physically strong and who had high levels of cardiorespiratory fitness, had a lower risk from death from any cause, including cancer. And this included patients who had advanced cancers. All-cause mortality decreased by as much as 46% when compared to people who were weaker, and had low CRF. Quote from the study, I'm going to read it to you because I think it's important. Assessing physical fitness, particularly muscle strength and CRF, is crucial for predicting mortality in cancer patients. The author stated, implementing tailored exercise prescriptions to enhance these physical fitness components throughout the cancer continuum may contribute to reducing cancer-related mortality. And what I thought was even more interesting, whenever I see a study like this, the first thing I want to do is see if there are more studies like this. I mean, I knew exercise was important. It's important for everybody. It's important for preventing and recovering from any disease. But I was surprised. There was a whole lot of evidence to support this, published evidence. And also, I'm a fan of Kelly Turner's book, Radical Remission. I recommend it to all cancer patients and people who don't want to be cancer patients. And when she published her first book, Radical Remission, she covered the 10 strategies that advanced cancer patients use to survive. She later added a 10th one, which was exercise and movement. So there's growing recognition that cancer patients need to work on becoming physically strong. So I found another systematic review and meta-analysis. This one was bigger, 12 studies with 1.3 million people, that also looked at the relationship between muscle strength and CRF and death for cancer patients. And it showed the same thing. The people who were stronger, people who had better cardiorespiratory fitness, had a lower risk of mortality. And this group of authors went further to outline the mechanisms of action. And I'll just share a few of them with you. One is a change in body composition, because excessive body fat is a risk factor for cancer, which is why you you might want to participate and empower yourself. Let's look at what the heck is going on that weight loss programs fail so much, because it puts you at risk of everything, right? Higher body fat is a contributor to insulin resistance, which in turn leads to higher levels of insulin-like growth factor, and both insulin and IGF-1 can increase cell proliferation and lead to cancer growth or progression of cancer. Obesity is correlated with negative changes to the intestinal microbiome, which results in increased production of pro-inflammatory molecules and even some estrogen or hormones, including estrogen. Strength training increases muscle mass, which improves glucose control and improves immune function. And physical activity improves circulation, which reduces hypoxic environments in which tumors can thrive. So many cancer patients are unhealthy and lack fitness at the time of diagnosis. This contributes to cancer. But interestingly enough, oncologists often insist that diet has nothing to do with cancer risk or survival. And some even discourage physical activity instead of saying, oh, you need to rest. On the topic of fitness and cancer, I think one of the most memorable sections of the hit film Forks Over Knives was the part that included Ruth Heydrich, who was diagnosed with metastasized breast cancer in her 40s. She not only survived, but she thrived, thanks to first adopting a plant-based diet as recommended by Dr. John McDougall, and also vigorous exercise. And she actually addressed this issue in the film with a great quote. I'm paraphrasing. She said that her friends were telling her, Ruth, you're a cancer patient, you should be resting. And her response was, I just knew that if I built a strong body, I could beat this. And boy, she did. She went on to compete in triathlons and run marathons well into her 80s, and earned a PhD and started counseling people about diet and health, and specifically diet and cancer recovery. So anyway, all this to say, I will always continue to say that diet is such a foundational thing we should pay attention to. And when people argue with me about the importance of it, this is a statistic that will help you understand just how important it is. The average adult human will consume 1 ton of food in a year. Now think about what a ton of food looks like if you were to see it piled in front of your house on the street. The cars couldn't go by, right? So how could you think that that wouldn't affect your health? So diet's super important, but exercise is super important. A strong, fit body is super important. And your psychological state is super important. People can make themselves sick psychologically. They can also make themselves well just by the power of thought and the power of resolving emotional distress. So I hope some of you will be joining us this not this weekend, but next weekend, March 21st and 22nd, to learn more about this. I hope some of you will take advantage of our wonderful special offer for new members, and I hope I hope a whole lot of you will take advantage of the free workshop we have coming up. All right, that's it for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news. Thanks for watching.